Good morning. I'm Karen Mazzata. I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington. It's always good to be together. We're streaming live from multiple locations, so please be patient with any technical glitches you might see or hear. I'd like to extend a special welcome today to visitors who may be joining our virtual service for the first time, as well as any newcomers who are returning. If you are new to our congregation and want to speak with someone to learn more about us, please contact our office administrator, Susie Burns, at office@uufh.org. If you have a pastoral matter, you can contact our wonderful minister, the Reverend Jude Geiger, at minister@uufh.org. Know that whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. Please join us at 11:30 for our virtual fellowship hour. The Zoom link for this will be posted during our service. It's also on our Facebook page. It's in our flash. Please grab a cup of coffee after the service and join us at 11:30. This week in particular, several of us will be trying to figure out the technical aspects of our upcoming congregational meeting. So we'd love for all kinds of people to come on and with their laptops and iPads and iPhones and help us figure that out. It's a whole new world. There will also be lively conversation. We appreciate that and hope to see you there. A few announcements. A Black Lives Matter UUFH reading group starts this Wednesday, September 23rd via Zoom. The group will start with the New York Times 1619 Project and continue with a series of books either by Black or Indigenous writers chosen by Reverend Jude. If you'd like to join, contact Frances Whittlesey at franceswhittlesey@gmail.com and she'll provide the schedule. There's information about this in this week's flash as well. All members, please mark your calendars for next Sunday. As I mentioned, September 27th is our annual congregational meeting at 12:15. There'll be several votes as we combine the two meetings we usually have in April and June into one. So we hope we see many of you there. There'll be an email blast this week, and it'll include the link to the meeting and links to the information that you'll be voting on, which will include new board members and a budget for the new fellowship year. And happy Mabon, the autumnal equinox, just like Ostara, the opposite side of the wheel of the year at Mabon, the days and nights are of equal length. Though it's typically celebrated on September 22nd, the exact moment of the equinox varies from year to year. Modern pagans celebrate Mabon by apple picking and other harvest events and rituals to restore balance and harmony. Happy Mabon to everyone celebrating. Yeah. I invite you to settle into your bodies and quiet your minds as we breathe deep together and settle into our time of worship. We'll begin with a special moment, thanks to David Sussman, with the ritual shofar to welcome in the new year for Rosh Hashanah.
On Rosh Hashanah, the shofar is sounded to call the Jewish people to a spiritual reawakening as the new year begins. We are called on to review how we have lived our lives in the past year. We are free to examine all of our motivations and desires and all the roads we have chosen to walk, to see ourselves as we truly are, and to decide what changes to make in the coming year. The days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are called the days of awe. We stand in awe of the universe and the interdependent web of human existence, of which we are all a part.
Tekiah. Shavarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shavarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah Gedula.
Please join me in saying our mission statement. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. Please join me in singing our affirmation.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank the Dismond family for lighting our chalice this morning. Our words come from a UU minister, a colleague of mine, and a friend, Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. This is a congregation that gathers in faith, not faith in one religion or one God or any one way. We gather in faith of the power of diversity, the power of love, and the hope of a world transformed by our care. We gather in faith in ourselves and those around us, not a faith that requires perfection or rightness in one another, rather a faith that in our shared imperfection, we may learn to stumble and fall together. Faith that we will help one another to rise and to try again and again. We are Unitarian Universalists. Thank you, Elijah and Luke and Josh and Melissa. Our story this morning is a traditional Jewish story. Excuse me. Once upon a time, there lived the old Rabbi Isaac in a wretched little tenement flat in the city of Krakow in Poland. Isaac lived in extreme poverty. With his wife and children, through all the hard times, Isaac had kept his faith and looked after his family as best he could. And so it was that he believed, when he had a dream one night, that the dream contained a message from God. In the dream, he had a vision of a chest of gold hidden beneath a particular bridge in the grounds of the royal palace in Prague. At first, he hesitated to believe in what he had dreamed, but when the dream recurred a second time and then a third time, he decided to make the journey to Prague. But when he found the bridge of his dreams, he found that it was guarded day and night by sentries, and he didn't dare to start digging. Nevertheless, he came to the bridge every morning, walked around it all day until evening. Eventually, the chief guard noticed the rabbi's odd behavior, asked him in a friendly way whether he was searching for something there or perhaps waiting for someone. Something prompted Rabbi Isaac to tell the friendly guard about the dream that had brought him all the way to Prague from Krakow. The guard laughed. "Oh dear," he said, "you poor old fellow with your worn out shoes. You have tramped all this way for the sake of a dream? Well, more fool you for trusting a dream. I can tell you that if dreams were to be trusted, then I'd be on the road as well, because I once had a dream that told me to walk to the town of Krakow and to search in the village for somebody named Rabbi Isaac, and there was going to be a treasure underneath his fireplace. What silliness is that?" And the rabbi smiled and bowed and thanked the guard and went home to find his treasure.
The first reading. The Inherent Wholeness of Every Being by Reverend Erica Hewitt. We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one reading those words is a stranger to pain or the knowledge that things bring or break down, promises, friendships, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. Brokenness happens. We're intimately acquainted with brokenness. Then, even as we believe that no matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. As you use, we believe that paying attention to something is an act of love. Witnessing and naming brokenness is how we begin to heal it. Some sorrows demand to be named out loud. My sister died. My body is fragile. I'm scared that I won't be able to pay my rent this month. The streets in my city are filled with violence. Healing happens when we examine what's in pain, wonder how it occurred, and allow it to teach us. In fact, sometimes the brokenness is immense, and the only grasp, the only power we have over that large and complicated pain looming over us is to bear witness, to tell its story, and to seek out companions and helpers who are willing to agree that yes, there is something breaking or messy in front of us, and we will not leave or even look away until the repair has begun. If love begins with attention, repair takes the form of compassion, bearing witness, speaking out. Repair looks like connection, justice, or even revolution. It looks like after-school tutoring programs, community meals, and holding signs in front of City Hall. And it begins by placing full trust and faith that there is inherent wholeness in every broken situation.
Thank you, Karen. In a moment, I'll invite us all to join in singing Spirit of Life. Following the hymn, we'll enter into a time of silence, knowing that with all the wiggles and sneezes and coughs in the world, it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me now in singing. Spirit of life, God of many names, source of love. We pause before the end of summer and the birth of autumn. We sometimes miss the constant little changes that lead us toward the profound. Help us to slow our pace long enough to feel the cooling of the air, to greet the changing colors, and to say goodbye to the robins. So too in our stories, we often forget that our lives are not as constant as they seem. Our children are slowly growing. Our classes will begin and end semester after semester. Our employment will not last forever. We will find that next job. We're all aging. Remind us to honor what is passing before us, to love what is right with us now as best we can, and to keep hope alive in our hearts for what the days ahead have in store. We are ever able to choose to face the joys and the sorrows with a sense of appreciation, for the little things that only bring a smile to our own lips, for the stories we enter for but a time, for the lives we are honored to know, and for those who are blessed to know us. Mother of hope, bless us now with an openness to what's to come. Soften our hearts before the everyday compassion we witness, for the small daily acts of kindness we give freely, for the warmth we show when the awkward smile is all we can give. The act of living is a miracle we can never fully explain, only a gift we are given, a gift we are blessed to share as wide as we can. We hold in our hearts this hour the national loss of a treasure, the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who has made a difference in untold generations of lives. We hold a moment of silence for her. We invite the gathering to lift up the names of those we wish to hold in all our hearts this hour. Cindy and Dave, Jeff and Jessica, Marty and Sylvia, Naomi, Sylvia, Tom, Barbara, David, Dan, Kate, Kai, Genevieve, Louisa, Laura, Rachel, John, Mike. Oh. This is news to me also. We mourn the loss of Marty Lipnick, a longtime member of the fellowship. Let's hold a moment and breathe together, friends, for those that knew Marty. He retired away from our fellowship as I arrived here 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago, so I did not know him well, but every time he would come back to visit and sing in our choir with Sylvia, he was always a warm man with a smile on his face. Seemed bigger than life to me. May Sylvia feel all the love this hour. I also hold in my heart my mother-in-law, Diane, who's in the hospital this week again. For all these names spoken aloud and for all those that are written silently on the tablets of our hearts, we pray.
This month's split plate recipient is the UUA Disaster Relief Fund. This is part of a covenant between the UUA and congregations between congregations who give generously and those in need, and with our community partners. Through aiding our congregations, their members, and their community partners, we are able to embody our faith and values. You can send a check to the office or donate through the website as seen on your screen. You can also donate through the Give Plus Church app, which can be found on the App Store or Google Play. We hope you'll be able to give generously. Thank you. The second reading, Religion at Its Best by Reverend Sarah Gibb Millspaw. Religion is as much about faith in humanity as it is about faith in deity. And many of us will find that over and over, our faith in humanity gets tested. We are immersed in a culture that's deeply corrupted by selfishness, greed, and oppression-born privilege and fear. It's all too easy for us to justify the dehumanization, ostracization, suffering, and death of others. It's all too easy for us to devalue some human lives and feel somehow like we're still good, upstanding, moral people. Religion at its best asks us to do better than this, to rise above the selfishness and status seeking, the othering, and xenophobia that comes so easily to us. Religion at its best, and our Unitarian Universalist faith, calls us to honor that which is sacred in each person, even those we might hate, even those who we find disgusting. It impels us to accept on faith that there is a sacred spark, a worthy spark in every person. This can sound mundane, but it's very radical, revolutionary even. Each person sacred, each person worthy. Accepting this on faith changes how we live. In this time when so many of us live in fear of dehumanizing political regime, let us renew our pledge to live out those sacred and human teachings that draw us toward compassion, love, and justice in ever-widening circles of care.
Thank you, Karen. I'll invite us all now. We'll have a video of a song that is familiar to many of us, Return Again. Susie will play it in a moment, and I invite you to sing along. There'll be a song leader and a percussionist.
Return again, return to the home of your soul.
Join with us.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Return to who you are.
Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul.
Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are. Return to who you are. Return to where you are, born and reborn again. These words from our hymn, our music and lyrics written by Shlomo Carlebach, or as Reb Shlomo to his followers. Our music and lyrics written, he was a Jewish rabbi, religious teacher, composer, and singer who was known as the Singing Rabbi during his lifetime. He died in '94. It's a hymn that feels like it's been around for centuries, but it's a thoroughly 20th century creation. This past month, as we've been reflecting on what it would mean to be a people of dignity and worth, our first principle, how do we welcome the stranger? How do we welcome back our own selves when we've been our own worst critic? I found myself speaking again and again about the amorphous nature of time these past few months, especially in this pandemic world we live in, how it stretches and shrinks. I blink and it's back to March, but it's been 6 months. How it affects our memory, rewriting pains and sorrows or keeping joys distant. Today, we'll look deeper into welcoming the moment before us that returns again and again, in joy and in pain. Happy Rosh Hashanah all, Shana Tova, a good and sweet year to all of us. In the Jewish calendar, we begin a new year, returning once again to a time of reflection, a time of atonement, a time of seeking out those we have wronged and seeking to make amends face to face. It's a ritual that we return to year after year. This coming Sunday, a week from now, we'll hold our annual Kol Nidra service on the eve of Yom Kippur. It's a somber service of reflection, discernment, and atonement. Join us at our usual 10:30 in the morning to meditate on the closing end of the sacred days. That Sunday will be a little bit different than usual because we'll be holding our evening service on the eve of Yom Kippur in the morning due to COVID. Sacred ritual has a power to it that transcends human generations. I marvel at the rituals we've been enacting millennia after millennia. That which the human community does in concert again and again takes on a sense of eternity. It seeks to encounter the moment between the moments that the poet T.S. Eliot famously penned. The world will continue its spin. Our days and lives will grow long and short, from coffee spoon to coffee spoon, as he writes. But these moments of ritual punctuate the routine. The rote becomes pierced, and one moment stands out amongst all the rest. When I hear the shofar be blown each year, it quickens my spirit. Time seems to shorten and stretch, to pause before eternity, knowing it will pass in a breath or two. We can return to this still point again and again, but we can't linger. It's ever before us, but never any less urgent. The poet's T.S. Eliot, beauty describing these still points in the turning world reflect the opposite side of the pain of loss or risk. When the moments of risk or pain literally take our breath away, they're calling us back to attend to what's before us while we still can. It's not time to think or to worry or to fret, but to act with intention as best we can. How many breaths go by unnoticed in our lives? When they are noticed, our world changes. Our shared intentions that lead to a common impact matter. When we come together this next week to honor the end of the days of awe, we enter again into a common human stream, a common human story. That is ageless. Maybe it's a bit of magical thinking on my part, but I think it's a kind of magical thinking that's quite true in the mythic sense of truth. These rituals, in changing form, have repeated and been adapted for at least 3,400 years. Maybe 170 generations have atoned, have fasted, each in their own way, but along a common thread. There's a power in living into that universal story. Culture and identity give us strength. Common purpose and common ground create a foundation civilization thrives in. It also builds a foundation that the human heart can return to for solace. When we lose our breaths again and again, having a place, adding to a shared story, makes acting in unison purpose all the more stirring and all the more possible. And I realize right now I should say that for those that are new to our fellowship, easily a quarter or a third of our congregation are Jewish. And so for some of us, these rituals of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are with us from our birth. And for others, they're new to us and we are guests and we handle them with care. I increasingly think about the power of meditation in these troubling times before the times of struggle come. In the years past, I've said this a few times and it reminds me again today, and I want to mention it again because I don't often talk about it in this way. I committed to a group meditation practice by a Korean Buddhist Zen nun. This is during my seminary years. These days, with my schedule all over the map, I maintain my own personal practice of meditation, and I strive to attend our twice-weekly meditation services on Tuesday and Friday mornings. I'm mentioning the meditation group almost weekly, as much as a reminder to myself to prioritize them as a reminder to each of us. When I endured my own near brush with death some years ago, being hit by a car as a pedestrian, when I was serving in our Brooklyn congregation, it was over Memorial Day weekend, or the Tuesday right after Memorial Day weekend, the doctor told me that I was quite lucky. My body decided on its own to remain relaxed as I was hit and thrown 10 or 15 feet. If I tensed up, she said, the injury would have been far worse. We often talk about meditation's benefits in the spiritual sense, and that's what we're here for, and sometimes around its healing of daily stresses. But it also teaches our body, our muscle memory, so to speak, to internalize the lesson of this too shall pass. None of us, I have no superhuman powers. I was just lucky. I'm still terrified of looking over the railings in malls that have a second floor. I still won't fearlessly swim far out into the ocean, and no amount of money will ever get me near power tools. But when I was hit by a fast-moving car, I didn't will myself to relax. My body intuitively returned to that place that meditation opened for me. It welcomed me home without struggle or fight, through no fault or effort of my own. And that intuitive return again and again, found in meditation, may have literally saved my life. I believe that very strongly, as my doctor told me that. If meditation doesn't speak to you, give it another shot, again and again. It has a lasting impact that it's not quite quantifiable, yet still eternal. As the song goes, return again, return to the land of your soul, return to what you are, return to who you are. Return to where you are, born and reborn again. Last week, I spoke of the new fellowship year, and this week we celebrate with Jewish people across the globe who recognize a new spiritual year. Our resources, both sublime and mundane, hold all the capacity we need to transform the world. History presents both an onerous and a hopeful record, sometimes at the same time. Each generation must imprint humanity's moral progress upon the tablets of our hearts anew. We can choose to look at that with despair for the effort, or we can choose to look upon that with awe. We have the capacity to impress humanity's moral progress anew. We have the capacity. It's a matter of will. It's a matter of personal and communal choice. That's our spiritual charge as a religious community. It's a roadmap in the potential eighth principle I spoke of it last week. The promise of the journey towards spiritual wholeness. The promise of the journey towards spiritual wholeness. During this time of high holy days in the Jewish liturgical calendar, how do we begin again in hope after seasons of hardship? Can we take their lessons and apply them to the choice for hope? Do we look upon past choices with despair, or do we choose to look upon them with awe? In this month of imagining what it means to be a people of worth and dignity, how do our choices impact that imagination? I recall some years ago, our regional lead to the Central East region, the Reverend Megan Foley, was leading worship for 40 or so clergy, and she had a metaphor that was really helpful for me there, and I haven't forgot about it. She spoke of earlobes and nostrils. I've told this story once before, but we haven't heard about earlobes and nostrils for a while, so let's start with that. I told so it may be familiar to some of you, and I'm going from memory, so I'll probably tell it a little bit differently. I thank her for getting me to think in this direction. In the body of life, we all have a role. If you're an earlobe, it's not to make the nostril over there act more like an earlobe. You may want to put in some effort to help the nostril be the best nostril it can be, but that's as far as you should go from your role as an earlobe, because the world still needs someone to be an earlobe. That metaphor got me thinking a lot about our mission as a religious community in the face of hardship and hope. We function as a group of individuals, but we also function as a group of groups, or as Dr. Paula Cole-Jones teaches, a community of communities. There are bodies, committees, that help move forward our social justice work, who help to maintain our grounds, who run our cold weather men's shelter, who teach our children, and who care for our ill. We don't need our membership team to take over our memorial garden, but maybe our membership team could help identify folks who are well suited for caring for the grounds that are the final resting place for our loved ones. Our board of trustees doesn't need to figure out the solutions to a better office system, but maybe it can help our volunteers who do that with our staff to better set policies around responsibility and authority that we all learn to follow and honor. In a community as large as ours, the minutia matters if we want to achieve our common purpose. The earlobes and nostrils of fellowship work lead to a common purpose. Our mission in religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. Those are the words, but the impact is larger. We care for our members in times of crisis as best we can. When we know of the challenge, we offer shelter in the cold weather months and grow vegetables for the pantry in the warm weather months, our town food pantries, not our own pantries. We partner with nonprofits the world over to offer funds in times of need, and we send our people abroad to help communities that we've partnered with, and those communities send their members here, speaking from our pulpit, to deepen our connections. We collaborate with the NAACP for their work in the community, and they collaborate with us in our work in the community for justice and anti-racism. Outside of this strange year of COVID, we maintain safe space for members of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, as well as a rehearsal space for Long Island's LGBT choir. And the list goes on. And that list takes a ton of minutia to happen. We need earlobes and nostrils, as unexciting as that work sometimes sounds. That work makes the life-saving and the life-affirming ministries happen. In these days of awe, it's not just the sublime sunset that you often hear me talk about, or the quiet of the garden that affirms our spirit. It's also the mundane, everyday task that takes 25 years to build or rebuild our grounds, that also affirms our spirits and blesses our hands to do the work ahead. If our mission statement were 3 words, what would they be? I land with community, individual, and world. If that were it, it would mean community draws the individual into the world. That's true, and that's one of our goals. Maybe nurture, caring, healing. In a too often broken feeling world, healing can only come when people choose the path of compassion and support. And as everyday as that sounds, so much of the world have not internalized that lesson. What I see as central to our mission is the reality that we need to be drawn out of our individual concerns into an accountable community that chooses to heal these corners of the world through care and justice. Sometimes that will be hard. Sometimes that will be so uncomfortable. Sometimes that means that our individual opinions will be in conflict with another's views, but we do so together. Return again. Return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are. Return to who you are. Return to where you are, born and reborn again. Awe and possibility and the very everyday. Amen and blessed be. And now we return to extinguishing our chalice with the help of the Dinsman family. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth or the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry into our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, Elijah and Luke. For those who see God, may God be with us. For those who embrace life, may life return our affections. For those who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen. Shana Tova to all who celebrate.